Thank you so much for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
You just flew in. You're traveling.
Yes.
I want to talk about. We're going to talk about investing. I want to talk about music. I want to talk about entrepreneurs. The first thing, you started investing in 2011. What was your what started it? What was your first investment that you did?
First investment that I did was a company out of New York called Tiny Chat. That was like chat roulette, but a little bit cleaner. Yeah. Yeah.
And what have you learned? What have you learned over the last 5 or 6 years in investing?
Don't invest in
Don't invest in chat roulette startups.
Yeah, don't roulette. The first one was always a bad one, but yeah.
Yeah. Have your general principles changed? Has the emphasis changed, or is the thesis that you had in the beginning? Did you just hit it right, and have you just stuck with it?
No, for me, it's like I just never considered myself a VC, and I think that's probably the ignorance was probably helpful. My background is a talent manager, so like I started my career in the music industry, had done talent management, built my own startups, and but also the artists that I've always worked with from the very beginning were artists who would normally come in as young artists, and we would kind of develop them into superstars. So the artists that we work with were startups. So for me, it just was a lot of gut instinct, and then kind of figuring out as I would go along. But I think my investment thesis has always kind of been just through the eyes of regular people.
What's higher or lower? Is it the success of a great company? Is it or like missing a deal, or when a company fails that you thought was going to be great? Like, do the highs outweigh the lows? Is there a particular moment in investing that's?
No, you know what? It's I guess for me, it's like I just got this thing where I don't get too high with the highs or get too low with the lows. So it's pretty, and I never, as an angel investor, I've never put enough into any one company that's going to determine the fate of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm not up at night, kind of sweating it out. I think, when I see an entrepreneur who I really like miss, and I think that might be tougher, but it's more the empathy for them as an entrepreneur than it is for myself.
It feels like I quit my job in 2009, in the middle of the recession.
Uh-huh.
I was working at Electronic Arts, and then just started building stuff. And it feels like I've only been on for 7 years. It feels like in that time, the Social Network movie came out, incubators kind of exploded. Funding's kind of exploded.
It's like being a real estate agent in 2006, right?
That's right. That's exactly. That was me. I was selling homes in Florida.
Everything's good. It's just the perfect business.
That's right.
And then The Big Short shows up.
That's
right?
Exactly right. So I wonder, what you have seen change as the pitches have changed, the entrepreneurs have adjusted and changed. What do you think from 2011, 2012 to now, only 4 or 5 years later? What differences have you seen in the way that entrepreneurs act, or the way that they pitch, or the companies they're starting, or what?
You know what? It's I don't know if I can see a blatant difference where I can say from here to here, but it's I think you bring up a good point. I think when the Social Network movie came out, and it was this big flash around, billion-dollar startups and everything else or whatever. It made it, and especially since capital was readily available, just through whether it's Kickstarter, whether it's through, AngelList and friends and family, and everybody is like investing in a startup is like buying a billion-dollar Powerball ticket. So you got a lot of people. Money wasn't that hard, so it makes entrepreneurship, the barriers to entry, a lot lower. But the reality is, I know some people are better at number 2 positions or number 3 positions, and are, by the way, are superstars in that position. So everybody's not built for entrepreneurship. So I think what I've probably seen over the last few years as things have started shaking out, everybody doesn't have the gut for it.
Yeah.
And
that's okay, right?
It's really okay. It's really okay.
Yeah. I love how every time, Uber does something good, like Lyft comes in and does something, you see the investors on Twitter, like all the Lyft investors like, oh, Uber's, what are they thinking? And then when Lyft does something, you see all the Uber investors come in and say, oh, what is Lyft thinking? That's so stupid. And what I love about you is you're the only person that I know of who's invested in both.
I fight with myself.
So you're like, hey, yeah, let's go. You're all, you jump on. I mean, that's just insane. That's it. That blows my mind. Like, and I've interviewed a lot of the Silicon Valley guys that invest in those companies, but how in the world?
That happened by that. I got lucky in the sense of I invested in a company called Zimride, right?
Yep.
And with John Zimmer and Logan Green found it.
Early. I mean, they were doing that really early.
Yeah, so we invested in Zimride, I think, in 2011 or so.
Yep.
And it was a platform that allowed like commuting from college campuses to dorms, and they had these contracts. And then 6 months later, I invested in Uber, and then the next year,
as the black car service.
It was a black car service
right.
and only in San Francisco at that point with a handful of cars. And the following year, Zimride launched a new product called Lyft.
Yeah.
And then it started working, and then Uber launched a new product to compete with it called UberX.
Right.
And then they wanted to kill each other.
Right.
So,
do you mediate ever? Are you ever in the middle?
I've been mediator. I've been referee. Cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Down here in LA, to think it's really cool.
And I'm not the guy. I can't post on social media about.
Yeah, you can't find
because I'm friends on Facebook with Travis and with John Zimmer.
Yeah.
So I can't ever say a good thing about.
You can't say nice things about either.
Yeah. I just can't wait for one of them to buy the other.
You text them.
Yeah.
Keep at it, man. Lyft's not that good. Hey, keep at it, man. Uber's not. They suck. So can I just ask you, how did you meet Travis? Where did the introduction come from?
That came through a friend of mine, Shervin Pishavar.
Yep.
So Shervin and I met, and Shervin had just sold his gaming company and was going into Menlo.
Yep.
And he said, you know what, let's do some really cool things. I think I'm going to become a VC. Let's form this Jedi mind group that invests in companies.
Sounds like Shervin.
Yes, exactly. And he brought me in Uber, Warby Parker, and a company out of Waterloo called TextNow.
Yeah. Okay, so you're a fan of Shervin.
I'm a big fan of Shervin.
I would think.
Shervin's the best.
Tell us what Smash Labs is, how it works. You had a first session last fall, and I think it was last fall. Was it in the spring?
Last fall.
Yeah. And tell us what you learned about it, and then tell us what the future is of it.
Great. Well, Smash Labs is an idea that I think Susie's in here somewhere. Susie Rue co-founded Smash Labs with me. And the idea was, how do we find early companies where we can help influence the outcome? We're mostly angel investors and Series A investors, and this idea was built around pretty much pre-seed companies that were kind of focused on moving culture forward. And so we got some really great founders that have gone through the program. Actually, this fall, what we're going to do, we're going to Atlanta, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Chicago, and we're going to do pop-up labs in each city just to kind of expand the types of companies that we're seeing. We got 200 applications in for this fall, but it just didn't feel like the pool was strong enough to build the right cohort around.
Yep.
So we found a company here and there, but it didn't feel like as good as the first cohort. So we're going back out, and then the new class will launch. I think February 2017.
And what are the terms, or how does it work in terms of equity, or is it kind of set in stone? Is it How does it work in terms
It's
of what
pretty
you
set.
give?
I think first year we were a bit flexible
Yeah.
as we were trying to figure out the model.
Sure.
You know, we try to be super founder friendly.
Yep.
And I think I got slapped upside of the head by some of my investor friends. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You invested too much time and for not enough in return. But we just try to be founder friendly, and this isn't a thing that we feel like the purpose isn't to get rich off of it or anything like that. It's just really to connect with entrepreneurs.
The thing I really liked about it, and I feel like I look at a lot of incubators. I've tried to get into incubators myself, and but when I wake up in the morning and say what does the world need? It's usually I don't say the world needs another startup incubator. There's a lot, right? And there's some really good ones.
Yeah.
But what I liked about what you guys did was I thought you brought something new and different to the table. You've had some kind of different models that you were trying out, and you had different types of companies, and like you said, you focused on different things that were strengths to you and Susie and your team. And I came to the demo day, and it was these companies were really cool, and it just felt like it had your style, it had some LA style to it, and it didn't feel like you said, it didn't feel like something you just threw up because you can. It felt like there was real purpose in it.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're not looking to be derivative, because I agree with you. We see a ton of accelerators. I think what I like, Techstars, I like those guys a lot. And I was a mentor at the Disney Accelerator, and I did the thing with RGA for the Dodgers Accelerator.
Yep, they were here today.
And I love the idea around specific industries being able to look at companies where they can help influence the outcome. And I do think we know what we're good at, we know what we're bad at, and I'm not building anything that's going to compete with Y Combinator.
Right.
And I think those guys are amazing at what they do, and they're much better at doing what they do. But when it comes to branding, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to narrative, customer acquisition, communication strategy, I think coming from the talent management business, we built a lot of competency in those areas.
If you were starting your career today, if you were 18, 19, or if you're coming out of college, what would you do?
Work for Spotify. That was easy.
I walked into that one.
No, you know what? Because I was a big music. I was a hip hop head as a kid, and it's like I was always in love with music, always in love with the music business. I read every single liner note. I was like the Rain Man of hip hop. And so data was me kind of reading all of the liner notes and kind of memorizing it. And I think now having access to all of this information in the world's catalog for me is I'm like a kid in a candy store right now.
You're the global head of creative services. Mm-hmm. What does this mean?
That's just a fancy title for a guy that gets to listen to music all day and fix fights. No, you know what? I think it's really kind of building a bridge between the creative community and Spotify, more or less. And also, I think just what's happening right now with all of the exclusives and things like that. So just helping to neutralize the business again.
Yeah. What have your friends said? Because everyone's kind of, there's some people in the middle. A lot of people pick sides, right? So what do these people, you've worked with these people your whole life, are they wish you well? Do they kind of man, I can't believe, what's Troy doing, What do people say in the industry about the move? It seemed like a big move.
Yeah, you know what? It's when you look at the landscape and you look at Apple and Spotify and Tidal and everything that's going on, I read an article yesterday that basically said, you know what? Exclusives are good, and that and people will have multiple subscriptions the way you got Hulu and Netflix or whatever.
Interesting.
Reality is, people in the country can barely afford gas for their cars, and they eat out more than once a month. So people don't really care about music that much to pay for multiple subscriptions. So it's just kind of bringing reality back to, because like as an industry, we screwed over fans once, right? Remember CDs used to, most of the people in this audience probably don't even know what a CD is, but it was these things that we used to have. These
we don't
discs.
allow them at our events either. We make people leave them at the doors.
Oh yeah, but we used to lock 2 good songs to 13 bad songs, right, and then make you buy the whole thing, and then you had to struggle to even open a thing.
You break it.
You needed like a blowtorch to even open the packaging. So the fact is, we're going to make you pay for a subscription service, and then you're not going to be able to have all of the music that you want on that service, and it's going to drive fans back to piracy. So my thing is, let's try to neutralize it, bring it back to the middle. I
was a freshman in college when Sean Parker and Sean Fanning were like, going, getting sued and everything like that. And then, iTunes came out, and what it's felt like Spotify has done is like it's made it. I like Spotify's on my home screen. It's like one of the best apps, one of my favorite apps. But it just made it all so easy. If my kids one morning say, "Hey, I want to listen to this song at the breakfast table," we start listening to the Wiggles or something.
And that's why the music industry can't be mad at Spotify is the music industry's fault, right? Has anyone seen the Tower Records documentary, This Too Shall Pass? It is, do yourself a favor, is one of the best. Whoever here is building a team right now, is a great film to watch about change. And it shows this iconic brand. It's a beautiful story, but it's about change. And it's almost the equivalent of watching Hurricane Katrina come, and they're giving you all of the warnings.
You stay home.
And you stay home, and you don't even board up the house, And but the documentary is about change. And you look at Tower Records, Tower could have bought Napster. You know what I'm saying? The music industry could have embraced it and partnered with it early, and we probably have a $100 billion business right now versus a $12 billion business right now.
Yeah.
So I think I think the music industry has taken its bumps, and now I think it's going to be healthier than it's ever been before.
Does it help or does it hurt Spotify to have been started in Europe?
I think it helps.
How come?
I think, when you look at a founder, I think Daniel Ek, the same way Travis is, to me, is the only founder that could have built Uber, just personality, temperament, and Daniel Ek is the same exact way, because you have to have the patience of Job to be able to negotiate with, the music labels and everything else or whatever. And so just looking back, the company's 10 years old, but it didn't launch until 8 years ago. It took 2 years just to negotiate the licenses with the labels. And up until he did it, it wasn't anybody who built out a successful model. So, and I think, I noticed, I just came from a board meeting with one of our portfolio companies, We Transfer. Yep. And they're European founders. Yep. And it's just...
They went through Smash Labs as well.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And with those guys, it's just a difference in... I see a personality difference between European founders and North American founders.
How can a startup beat a company with infinite resources? What do you do? It just seems so daunting to go. What do you do? Where do you start?
I don't know if anybody has infinite resources.
Oh, no?
No.
When you have tens of billions of dollars in free cash
flow? It's
not
not infinite.
It's a lot.
I've seen people blow. You saw how much cash Uber blew through in China with infinite resources and lost China?
Well, they ended up with a pretty good consolation prize.
No, I think so. I don't know if infinite resources is always the best thing, though, because I see some of the best ideas come out of limited resources and people being broke and having to have their having your back up against the wall and being on cold concrete sometimes can bring out great ideas.
Well said. So the other thing that you did with joining Spotify is you kind of left the traditional music business. You've been representing artists for a really long time as one of the kind of premier reps of talent, and you're not doing that anymore. And that to me is like a really big idea. Like, if I'm an agent and I see that, I don't know, it would cause great pause. You know, it's kind of like this Tower Records thing, right? It's like, wait, what did he just do? You know, I mean, was that a really hard decision? That seems like a really hard decision, or was it like, no, it's the future. This is what I need to do. Why would you do that?
It was an incredibly difficult decision, and you know, because I've been doing talent management for 17 years.
Yeah.
You know, since 1999. You know, when I started the first company, and so it was a very difficult decision that I changed my mind on probably three or four times before I finally got myself around to doing it. But now that I'm in, you know, it's no looking back, and because it shows that I did the right thing. Because being on the inside shows how far the music industry is behind, and it's scary to know that I was building out a company a certain way that wasn't going to work in the future. Kind of knowing, being able to kind of see what's ahead of us now, is no way in the world what I was currently building was going to be equipped to work for what's coming up.
With the internet and kind of this globalization of the world, does that devalue the impact on a musical talent coming out of Los Angeles or coming out of New York? Are we going to see? I mean, we do see it to some degree, but like more and more, are we going to see just people coming out of the woodwork, or do you think that those urban areas and, you know, kind of the dense populations, are we still going to get, you know, some of the great talent coming out of these places? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm seeing talent come from everywhere, you know, and you know, that's the beautiful thing about technology, how it's democratized the business, you know. So where, you know, before you sort of had gatekeepers at record labels, gatekeepers at radio stations, gatekeepers at venues, and now it's, you know, it's all a bit democratized. So you know, I think what I'm looking forward to is, you know, what you look at the amount of money that the streaming services have paid out, and but you still see songwriters and artists where it's not going into their pockets, you know, so they're not seeing the value. So I'm just looking forward to a day where, you know, the playing field is a bit more even. Like the live concert business used to be pretty much the same way, and it's, you know, and now you look at it and the artists, you know, are at the real receiving end of the value chain there.
I want to just close by just talking about Los Angeles for a minute. You know, it's been, we host events in 200 cities around the world.
Wow.
So we get to see a lot of different things. And I think LA was the first chapter outside of Silicon Valley that we started. Some guy came and pitched me that this is something that LA needed, and I thought it was a horrible idea, but he convinced me, and this then kind of spread around. And so, like, but as we've looked to grow and try to help educate entrepreneurs, I've seen LA as like this huge, amazing opportunity. I'm from Florida, but live in Palo Alto, and you know, one of my college friends was Zach James, who started Zephyr, which is now a really huge company, and I got to see that over the last few years and seen what you've done and seen what other people have done. But what I've been surprised about is I have been surprised at the lack of the lack of support from some people in LA, but also a lot of people outside of LA. And I wonder, like, what does the Los Angeles area need to do to gain more respect? The companies are here. Like, there are amazing companies here. And Snapchat, or Snap, maybe one of the, if not the most innovative companies in the world right now. What do we need to do as a community to help LA, or to, you know, to...
I think not look north.
Yeah.
And I say that like it... and I say that just because, you know, when you look at, you know, if we would have been talking to, you know, and I'm speaking specifically around consumer tech and not aerospace or health, but consumer tech, if we would have been talking, you know, 7 or 8 years ago, we would have been laughing, right? Like, okay, everything that's happening like right now in real time, you know, we talked about, you know, a few years ago. the reality is LA has great entrepreneurs. LA has a really great supportive ecosystem, just with all of the entrepreneurs in the area. You're starting to see a lot of funding happen in LA. You're starting to see some serious M&A happen in LA, just over the last 9 months between Dollar Shave Club and
Machinima and all sorts of things.
And even Riot Games and, just multi-billion-dollar companies. And this is still a very young ecosystem for consumer tech. And so I think and this is what LA has that's going to be incredible. So I think what we need is just a little bit of patience. So you can't buy a house the size of this stage for less than $5 million in Palo Alto and up north right now. So cost of living, quality of life, cost of running a business, is all of these things that I'm starting to see. It's kind of forcing entrepreneurs to go to other places to start and run their businesses.
Right.
I'm also seeing a lot of entrepreneurs who are starting families and second-time entrepreneurs or cashed out, invested at larger companies that have come down here.
Yeah, David Lee's a good example of that.
Yeah,
Angel.
Exactly. And then when you see now a lot of we've hosted things for the Andreessen guys. I just did a dinner with the Kleiner Perkin guys, and a lot of people. Shervin pretty much lives down here right now. You got
Chris Sacca, Fred Wilson spends a lot of time here.
Exactly. You got a ton of people who that are funding businesses that are now here. So I think also as you see these exits and people replant those seeds back into the ecosystem through seed investments, mentorships, and everything else, I think over the next another 5 years is going to be pretty incredible. But right now, I'm very, very, very bullish on LA.
Yeah. So just to recap that, be comfortable in your own skin and be patient.
Yeah. Yep. And I think the valley is strong at certain things, and I think LA is very strong at certain things. But I don't think it's I feel really great about what's happening right now, and I probably wouldn't have, like I said, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said the same thing.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yep.
Troy Carter, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Thank you very much.